Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode, whatever you want to call it. It's a channel, you know what I'm saying? We in the depths, and today I'm going to be doing a review of Makes Me Wanna Holler. And for those of you that enjoy music, I suggest you listen to the album Makes Me Wanna Holler by Marvin Gaye. I don't know why I said album. Makes Me Wanna Holler is a song. The album is called What's Going On. That's fire. I also would suggest you listen to Trouble Man by Marvin Gaye. That's good stuff right there. And this book is actually he titled this kind of loosely based on that album, and it's mainly based on a young black man in America. This book, when I started it, okay, also, I don't want to say I don't want to say and I don't want to say like. So we'll see how that goes. So I don't want to say either. Hey, it's King Sulaiman, the director, producer, writer, videographer, audiographer, and editor. How many times do you think I say like, or in this video? And here's a hint, it's way more than 10. I've established a or like counter as a punishment for the excessive amount of times that I use those filler words, and in time I plan to replace them with better ones. This book immediately drew me in. I've had this book for a long time. My dad got me this book probably 10 years ago, and it took me 10 years to read it. Not 10 years to like open the cover and begin the pages, but 10 years later, I actually pulled this book out and decided to read it. It's an extremely good book, and it kind of inspired this channel a little bit. And kind of inspired a little bit of like what direction I kind of went with my intellect. So initially I just kind of wanted to like document my life, but I came to understand that my documentation is art in its expression. Thus, I feel like it could be published. You know what I'm saying? So shouts to this book, but it pulled me in immediately with this crazy story that he just starts off. It's just smack. It's like when you watch a show and the person gets killed within the first 5 minutes, and you're like, oh yeah, okay. This kind of gives motivation to me to see where this goes. And the author takes it, his name is Nathan Mccall, and he takes it into the depths of his life as a black man in America. So he talks about the various relationships he's formed, whether it was his friends in the neighborhood, or like he went to a white school for a period of time, and kind of what happened to him in that circumstance. He talks about the relationship with his mother, his father, his stepfather is instrumental in his life. He has siblings. He talks about, you know, the dynamic of that, growing up, maturing, some of the experiences that he may I don't know if he would use this word, but for lack of another term, um, regret some of the things that he kind of feels like weren't, the best way to go about things. There's a point where he goes to jail. There's a lot of things that he learned in jail and the relationships that he formed with those people during that, I guess you could say, difficult time in his life. He talks about the relationships he has with women and the children that they came together to create, and how that, you know, um, shapes the way in which he lived his life. All of these relationships, not just with the women and kids, but all of these relationships that he's had, and all of these different experiences that he's had that led him to become and to be. He ends up working in the workforce, you know what I mean, in a professional setting, and how that um, affected him, which is pretty cool. What I like about this book is that I like that he explains his life as a black man in America. And by doing that, it adds value to a lot of the black men in America and what they may go through and how it affects them. And I like that he takes full responsibility for some of the negative aspects, um, but he doesn't shy away from the outside forces kind of playing a large role in the lanes he may have seen himself in. And I think that it's so hard to explain some of these nuances and some of the things that a black man goes through without it seeming like you're victimizing yourself, or that you're like creating these scenarios that aren't really real, but they very much are so. And if you have any interest in understanding a black man, whether it's your child or your father or your spouse, or any relationship you may form with a black man who may be seeming to have a difficult time navigating through this America. And I find that vital for people to kind of understand. Um, he also speaks on a lot of different books that he read, from people from 24 Karl Marx to
Thought of something funnier than 24. Let me hear it. 25.
different poem books. Herman Hesse, who wrote Siddhartha, which is one of my favorite books ever. I would probably do a review on that, a Sue's view on that. He speaks on, I don't know if I said music, there's philosophers that he talks about, and from like Seneca to, actually he might not have mentioned Seneca, but various philosophers I have written here: Spinoza, Um, I'm not gonna go into those because I may mispronounce them. But there's a lot of different information outside of just I'm a black man. Like it's a young man's, you know, journey through the life. And it just so happens that America views him as a black man. And a lot of black men didn't necessarily choose, you know, some of these here I go saying but I'm loading the thought. Um and I actually just lost it even explaining that, which is sucky. Uh all knowledge is with God. Maybe it'll come back to me. Um so black men didn't necessarily choose to be a black man or be seen as such, but it's a constant reminder when you're in a country that where well, not that but where um color is considered by everyone. And there's a quote that I have about that. So he was at work and he befriended a white guy who was really nice, and he wasn't like he really had a good heart, and he invited Nate to dinner and they hung out and things like this. And Nate was kind of confused by it because he's like, "What's up with this dude? Like, why is he nice? Like, I'm used to um, these wild experiences where people criminalize me before you know anything even occurred." And so here's a quote on that. And he's talking to the guy. He calls him Danny Boy. I told Danny I didn't have a choice in the matter. You can sit around and intellectualize about race when you want to, and when you get tired of it, you can set it aside and go surfing or hang gliding and forget about it. But I can't. Race affects every facet of my life, man. I can't get past race because white folks won't let me get past it. They remind me of it everywhere I go. Every time I step in an elevator and a white woman bunches up in the corner like she thinks I want to rape her, I'm forced to think about it. Every time I walk into stores, the suspicious looks and white shopkeepers' eyes make me think about it. Every time I walk past whites sitting in their cars, I hear the door locks clicking, and I think about it. I can't get away from it, man. I stay so mad all the time because I'm forced to spend so much time and energy reacting to race. I hate it. It wearies me, but there's no escape, man. No escape. And that's a great quote. I think that a lot of black men find themselves wanting to ignore this cloak that has been placed on them, and throughout these different instances in life they're like reminded like, oh man, I'm just a black guy to that person, you know what I'm saying? In whatever formulation that person has devised in their mind through propaganda and through their experiences and what they learned in America, it transcends who that black man actually is. And it's scary, you know. It makes you want to holler.
When I talk, it's a symphony of ideas.
You know, it really does. So yes, I really like this book. It goes all over the place, um, as far as concepts and ideas. It's beautiful. Give it a read. And I'm gonna give you a read from the Daily Stoic. Okie doke. Try the opposite. What assistance can we find in the fight against habit? Try the opposite. Viktor Frankl, the brilliant psychologist and Holocaust survivor, cured patients surviving from phobias or neurotic habits using a method called paradoxical intention. Let's say a patient couldn't sleep. The standard therapy would have been something obvious like relaxation techniques. Frankl instead encouraged the patient to try not to fall asleep. He found that shifting focus off the problem deflected the patient's obsessive attention away from it and allowed them to eventually sleep normally. Fans of the TV show Seinfeld might remember an episode called The Opposite, where George Costanza magically improves his life by doing the opposite of whatever he'd normally do. If every instinct you have is wrong, Jerry says to him, then the opposite would have to be right. The larger point is that sometimes our instincts or habits get stuck in a bad pattern that pushes us further from our natural healthy selves. Now, you shouldn't immediately toss out everything in your life. Some stuff is working. You're reading this book, but what if you explored opposites today? What if you broke the pattern? It's good stuff, good stuff. Are you willing to change your mind? I think that a lot of us have this idea of where we want our lives to go and what we think our lives should consist of. But what if you changed? What if you grew? What if you learned new methods and you applied them? Could that help? You know what I'm saying?
I haven't not done any drugs. I've drinking a little bit, but even if I wasn't drinking, I would tell you the same thing. What do it take to be number one? You are in the presence of a champion. Bow in the presence of greatness, family.
Don't get too stubborn. And I'm speaking to myself mainly here. But for those that this resonates with, let it. And do something about it. I appreciate y'all. Please, please, please be good and not bad. And at least I love you.